this, we cannot afford to copy blindly and do all the things some other well-developed countries are doing. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to this pandemic. We have a unique situation in our country, and we must take it into account in dealing with the disease, whilst meeting all the 6 key WHO guidelines on the most effective ways of combating the pandemic. Even though it may be said that the number of our infections is still relatively low, if we act now, purposefully, we have a chance of preventing an escalation of our numbers. So, effective 1 a.m. on Monday, 30th March, some 48 hours from now, I have imposed, pursuant to the powers granted the President of the Republic under the Imposition of Restrictions Act, 2020 Act 1012, restrictions on movement of persons in the Greater Accra Metropolitan Area, GAMA, which includes Awutu Senya East Municipality, and the Greater Kumasi Metropolitan Area and contiguous districts for a period of 2 weeks, subject to review. It'll give us the opportunity to try to halt the spread of the virus and scale up effectively contact tracing of persons who have come into contact with infected persons, test them for the virus, and if necessary, quarantine and isolate them for treatment should they prove to have the virus.
Well, so let's stay with the police on this particular directive that the president has given. And I am in the studio with Superintendent Sheila Kesi Abeye Bachman, and she is Director, Police Public Affairs Directorate. And good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
We're grateful to you. So, how prepared is a security service, or the police service, let's put it that way?
All right. The national security architecture had anticipated some kind of further restrictions on the restrictions that the president had earlier given. Okay. And so some preparation and discussion had already started to scale up on the directives, on the ban on gatherings and funerals and churches, and that those earlier directives under the Imposition of Restrictions Act. And therefore, when the president directed that further steps be taken, particularly in Accra, Kumasi, Kasoa, and Tema, to achieve the 5 objectives he has set, we were already ahead of time to prepare. And the discussion is still ongoing because it is a multi-sectorial approach. The police will lead the security, but we will be supported by the Ghana Armed Forces and other security agencies, the Bureau of National Investigations, the Immigrations for Ports and Harbors, so a number of agencies. So I should say that we are ready.
So with regards to the operations, what should we be saying from Monday?
From Monday, roads leading into Accra, Kumasi, Kasoa, Tema, and roads that take people out of these areas will be locked. They would be barricaded such that anybody who attempts to access these roads will be asked to return to base or do a U-turn, because for 2 weeks we will not allow people to exit and enter these routes, except some exemptions that have been given. Secondly, you will see a lot of patrol by uniformed officers.
Are we just going to see them in uniforms or protective gears? What kind of persons are we going to see?
Depending on the nature of the duty, you will see officers, some of whom may be in mask and gloves, but you will also see officers who are just like me without mask and gloves, depending on the duty they are performing. You will also see our traffic police officers, because we will still manage traffic. And you will also see a number of snap checks within these areas.
Okay.
Because we will be enforcing the restriction, and we will also be assisting few people that may have to go out to get food or medicine or undertake some transactions. We will be escorting the few categories of people who have been exempted to perform duties as well.
Well, so what is the meaning of the minimum force that the president talked about? What does that mean?
So we are going to employ what we normally call democratic policing, which means that we are going to employ persuasion to get people to comply. We do know that TV3 and its allied stations would ask people to stay home, as we all expect. Mm-hmm. But we are also mindful of the fact that a few people might want to come out and be stubborn. And in that case, we will apply just the force that is required to contain any situation that may arise. And after containment of the situation, it is finished. And so although a few of us may have rifles, it is not to deter anybody. It is just to help to enforce the law.
So we know that, fuel attendants, people, pharmacies, hospitals, there are some categories of people who will be working. So assuming somebody lives in Abokobi, somebody lives in any of the areas, and the person needs to go and render these services, and the police meets such a person, how will such a person prove to the police? Or how would the police just accept that I work at Papaye, or I work here, and that's it, you can move on?
So for the group of people that have been exempted, like I said, this is a multi-sectoral approach. And so with several agencies, including the ministries, we are looking at how we can easily identify those who may not have identity cards. For a large number of the people that fall within the group, they have identity cards. But for those who may not have identity cards, we are looking at how we can easily identify them. But let's not forget that the president has also ordered that in emergency situations, people who may have to buy food or medicine or undertake banking transactions can do that. And so there will be commercial vehicles like trotro and like motorbike riders who don't have to carry pillion riders. And so these will be there. Because it's a multi-sectoral approach, we are all aware of it. And it will not just be that we are stopping you from moving. Like I said, we're going to employ persuasion most of the time. And we believe that almost everybody will comply. The few who may not want to comply, we will speak to them and then carry it through. So we are very hopeful that we're going to employ democratic way of containing this situation and enforcing the laws.
Thanks so much for joining us in the studio with all these thoughts on what people should be doing with regards to the shutdown in these particular areas. I have been speaking with Superintendent Sheila Kesi Abeye Bachman, and she is Public Director, Police Public Affairs Directorate. And let's move on to other news as well. Well, let's take a break here. We'll be right back with more.
When you wake up in the morning, before you start your day,